Hey guys, today I want to talk about realistic expectations. But before we start, I want to talk about something here about our driver that we offer. Make sure that you contact me first at steven5975@yahoo.com if you need the driver that we were talking about the other day in the video. We use Ruben as our driver now. We also use another guy, Merck. We no longer use any other drivers except for those two right now. Occasionally we will use Angel or we'll use somebody else. But those are basically our drivers here. So I just want to put that out there, guys. So make sure you contact me if you need a driver. You need to go up to the PRA because I go with them. If you go through me, then I go. If you go through some other people, because we've had people that are calling other people, and I'm not sure where they're getting these phone numbers or whatever, and they're not going through me, okay? And if you do that, I don't go. You know what I mean? I don't, because I don't know anything about what's going on, what you're doing. And I've had a few people say, well, gee, Steve, I contacted this guy, and I'm like, well, I don't know that guy. You know what I mean? So how do I know? So I can't be held accountable for drivers that, people are contacting, because we did let go one of our drivers, okay? And, we just had a disagreement, and I just want to put that out there that we are just working with Ruben right now, and I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that, guys. Also, today I want to talk about have realistic expectations when you get here, okay? And a lot of guys are coming over here, and they're talking to me on the phone, and they're throwing out these numbers that they want to be in a gated community, they want to have a 2-bedroom house, or they want to have a 1-bedroom house, they don't want to have a studio, they want to have 20, all kinds of security. They want to make sure that they're close to things. I want to be right next to this or right next to that. And you can have that, but you have to be realistic on the prices around here, because a lot of guys are not being realistic on the prices. When you're talking about getting a condo, you're going to pay more than you are for a house that's inside a gated community. And a lot of people don't understand this, which is kind of funny, because let me fix this here. I have a bottle here. It's ready to flip over. But it's kind of funny over here, because sometimes you can get houses for like $350, a 2-bedroom house, and you can still get a pool and stuff like that in some of these gated communities, but the condos are a lot more. And I'm not sure why they're like that, but you can go out and get a 2-bedroom house over here for $350 in a gated community with a pool nearby, with all that security stuff, which is great. And there's so many of those places around here. We have Hope Residences here. There's a couple of places that we've taken off our list that we no longer associate with anymore. If you want to talk to me about those ones, which ones to stay away from, I'll let you know. There's like 2 of them that we usually stay away from, that we just disassociated ourselves with because of issues that we've had at those places and whatever. And they're just not worth working with anymore. They let their pools go down. Their security is very lax. They've let people through that they shouldn't let through, and we've taken those off our list now. And those are, one of them is right near Mungahan. Okay, so if you want to call me and talk to me, I'll give you the names of the places that we're disassociating ourselves with, for good reason too. But anyway, guys, when you come over here, have realistic expectations on things, like what things are going to cost. Things over here have gone up. If you think you're going to come over here and meat prices and Western food is going to be cheap, it's not. It's probably going to be a little bit higher. Meats, some things are a little bit cheaper over here than in the U.S. Some chicken, depending on where you buy it, where you get it from, things like that. Also, guys, around here, sometimes you can get fresher vegetables than you can back in the U.S. because we have like a lettuce farm down the street here. We can go there, we can get lettuce. We can pick it ourselves right from the garden, bring it home and make a fresh salad or whatever. Be realistic about transportation. Transportation is cheap over here. It's cheaper than in the U.S. to travel around using Grab, using buses, using trikes and jeepneys and all that. But you still need to put money aside for that. Now, a lot of guys think that they can drive in the mess over here, and some do. Some get along fine driving around in this mess that's over here. I call it a mess because the traffic over here is always a mess. It's really, really rough driving over here. I don't recommend that anybody drive over here. And I know a lot of the guys, they ride around on their motorcycles and they feel safe. And it's good because around here, if we go north towards Manila, it starts getting more dangerous. If we go more south, it gets less dangerous and less traffic, less things are, less accidents are likely to happen. I had some guy write to me, send me some accident reports, and he says there's more accidents in the U.S. than there is in the Philippines. That's because most of them don't go get reported. I really get tired of people sending me so-called factual information that's not factual, because when you're talking about the Philippines, a lot of things don't get logged in. Police do not log in most accidents. They do not log in a lot of stuff. I've been around accidents. They never took enough information to log it in. They didn't take a report or anything like that. Sometimes this stuff happens. They just don't. It doesn't get listed in the report, so it doesn't get into those calculations that they do for those things, for the worldwide calculations of accidents in certain countries. So and I'm sure even in the U.S. sometimes people make a deal between each other and say, hey, listen, rather than contact my insurance company and contact the police, why don't I just pay you off? That happens more over here than it does back in the States. Keep that in mind. So have realistic expectations over here. Don't think that all the stuff that you find online is going to be true either. And don't think that all the vloggers out there, including myself, look things up. Try to find facts. But some of those facts you have to understand sometimes might not be true, because there's extenuating circumstances, like I just said, like when you're talking about accidents or things like that. But when you're talking about apartments and stuff like that, look online and price them what they are in that area. Price them and look on Facebook Marketplace. Look on different sites to see what things are going for. Look at Airbnb. Airbnb can be expensive sometimes, and sometimes it can be dirt cheap. Make sure that if you get an Airbnb that it has AC, make sure it has a refrigerator so you can get refrigerated food and you can keep it safe. All that stuff. And I want to talk about this because the expectations that people have, they really set them really low sometimes, or they set them too high. We have like these two, it's funny because Americans come over here and they say, man, I'm going to live on 1,000. You've heard me talk about this before. I get kind of burned out on talking about this, so I'm only going to talk about it for a second. I'm going to live on 1,000 or 1,200 or whatever, and I'm going to live really like a king over in the Philippines because I'm in the Philippines. Well, yeah, you're going to probably live a little bit better over here than in the U.S. until you get sick. We talked about that. Now, for the guys that are on the 2,000 to 3,000 or more budgets and stuff like that, you can live really, really well over here. And I don't think people are setting their expectations too high on housing. You can get a nice place over here for anywhere from $600 to $800 a month in a gated community. You probably got to pay a few fees or whatever. You'll have a pool. You'll probably be near shopping, things like that. You probably just walk to the gate. You can probably get a tricycle or possibly get a Grab in some of these places like Laguna, Santa Rosa, around Manila. Even in Tracy Martires now, we also have a Grab. Okay, so I want to put that out there because that's important, because I've actually used this Grab and the guy's really, really good. And we also have our own drivers, so we use sometimes. But sometimes for small rides, you just use a Grab because you don't want to bother your regular driver, because the regular drivers that we have are usually for big trips and stuff. But anyway, I wanted to put this out there because of the fact that have realistic expectations when you come here. That life is not perfect here, because a lot of guys are coming over here and think that all the girls are perfect. They're not. Okay, we have our problems over here with girls, just like you have problems back there with girls. They're just different problems, and you got to be realistic about that. And some guys think that the girlfriend that they met online and they talked to her for a year online is the girl that they want to marry, and as soon as they get here, they get off the plane and they will get married within a week or two. And that's just not being smart. You need to really get to know a person for at least 3 to 6 months. And I actually got an email yesterday from a guy stating that he got married to a girl. It's not working out, and he's kind of upset with himself. He said that he rushed in, and he says it seemed like everything was going to work. And he says his girlfriend's really, really nice, and I guess she has children, and they're nice kids, and he's kind of disappointed in the fact that he got married. And I got another email from a guy also who was also in a similar situation, but I'm not going to get too much into that one. But the other guy said I could actually talk a little bit about it. And I always ask people usually if I vlog about it, or I try to stay very vague so nobody knows who I'm talking about. Okay, but you know, these are the things that people, when fools rush in where angels fear to tread, man, I'm telling you, you have these high expectations of these girls that they're perfect when you get here, and they're anything but. You know what I mean? And they have these expectations that you're going to be perfect, and you're going to just keep on keeping on and throwing money and supporting their families and stuff like that. You need to set those boundaries, guys. Boundaries. You know, if you don't set boundaries with these girls and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not giving to these people. Once you start giving to the family, it's the gravy train. You've already started the train. The train is already started up. It's full of coal. It's ready to roll, and they want you to keep throwing coal in, you know, meaning money. They want you to keep that train rolling. Be careful of that, because, you know, they're going to have expectations of you then. Don't give anybody any expectations that you can't keep up with, or that you didn't promise. You know, make sure the boundaries are set. I cannot state about these boundaries enough, because you guys come over here and you think you don't have to say anything, everything's going to be okay. State what you want, what you expect with these girls. You know, and also when you're buying things or you're renting things or whatever, you know, ask them what you can do in these apartments and stuff like that. So can I put in an AC? Can I drill a hole in the wall? Can I put a split type AC? Can I cut a hole in the wall for a regular box type AC? You need to ask these questions before you move in. I see so many guys move into apartments and stuff, and the landlord will say, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. And some of the landlords, man, I heard about one landlord, he couldn't put his shoes outside his door. Okay? And I told the guy, I says, dude, you need to move. And he said he was hanging outside one night smoking a cigarette out on his balcony, and the landlord saw him and asked him to not be smoking outside. You know, it's a house that he rented. You know, I guess she saw him out there. So, and she says you can't smoke inside either. You know, these are things that you guys have to kind of figure out and learn. You know, you have to learn what to do in situations like this. You have to ask these questions beforehand. You know, a lot of guys come over here, they move up north to these places that they're very provincial, I'll say, and they expect places that have American foods, and they expect to go to the supermarket and have American foods. And guess what? They don't have any American foods there. They're very few and far between, so you have to pay more. I have them shipped up by Lazada or what have you. You know, have realistic expectations. Do not think that everything is going to be catered to you because you're an expat over here. They won't cater to you because you're an expat. A lot of people will work hard for you. They'll do things for you, provided that you're giving them decent money. And don't overpay people. Pay people what the going rate is, and maybe 20% more, and they'll be happy. Okay? Because they're looking for work. But if you pay double, triple, or quadruple, and I can understand sometimes it's worth it to pay that, and that's okay for some certain people, because they're doing a job that really helped you, and I know you're grateful, overly grateful, and sometimes. But if you start paying these people this, they expect it all the time. So when you go to pay them less next time, because you were so thankful this time, then because maybe you're broke, maybe you just bought a 50-inch TV or something like that, and that money, that you don't have that much money this month. Then you go to pay this person a regular wage or something like that. They're gonna say, "Nah, I'll pass on it." And that's the fact of the matter here. You need to really think a lot more over here than you do back home, because back home we know what things are. We know what to expect, but here many think that the same rules exist here, and they just don't. And that's why I say you need to really stay on top of things and think of what's going on, and live in reality. Live in reality here, and expect that things can go awry or can get bad over here. But for the most part, for me living here, because I stay on top of things here, for the most part, it's pretty decent for me living over here. But for a lot of guys over here, it can be hell. especially guys that come over here and think that, you know, because they've heard other people talking about you can live on the lower budgets, or they tell people, oh, you can live down here in such and such island or whatever, and it's going to be beautiful down here, and you know, it's wonderful. And then if the person gets there and they find out there's no expats to talk to, there's no coffee shops around, there's no American food, and they're stuck in a place that they're not happy with a 1-year lease that they signed, then what? So you're just kind of stuck in that place. And I've seen people, even some of the vloggers, one of the vloggers in particular, he started out here on $450 a month. I remember this. It was actually 2 vloggers that started out on this, about $400 to $500 a month that they were living on. They were living really crappy. One guy actually lived pretty good on that for a while, but that was a long time ago. That was like 5 years ago, when you could still kind of eke out some sort of existence, but it wasn't great. This guy had to stay home all the time. And one guy lived near the beach also, but one guy lived in an apartment, like not an apartment complex. He lived in a complex where there was side-by-side housing, okay? And he did pretty good. He was a British guy, and it was amazing what he was doing. But anyway, you can't live that way anymore here. You can, but it's getting rougher, you know, to live like that. You cannot live on 500. You cannot live on 800. You can't even live on 1,000, you know, unless your place is paid off and then you have cheap insurance or something like that. So don't, guys, have realistic expectations, please. You know, if you have questions, you can always contact me over here. You can contact some of the girls over here. Even the girls will usually tell you what things cost and stuff like that. So you know what things are going to cost for you. Where you live is going to dictate how much you pay for rent over here. Okay? Where you live is going to dictate if you live in Makati, you're going to have high rent. Anyway, guys, God bless. Take care. I hope you enjoyed today's show.